This is the 2024 Hyundai Kona EV, and in today's Vehicle Visionary video, I'm going to give you the ultimate tour. Hey everybody, it's Tom from Vehicle Visionary. I hope you're having a great day. And I know some of you are going to say, Tom, we like to see the lower trim levels. Well, this is the only Kona EV in inventory at Mike Morgan Hyundai from where I borrowed this model. It is the limited, it is the highest trim level, but there are probably some of you who would like to see that as well. I'll try and show all trim levels as they become available at the dealership. Whether you go EV or not with the Kona, it has a surprisingly roomy interior for a subcompact crossover. I'm going to give you the cargo capacity later on in the video, not in cubic feet, but in inches, something you don't typically get. A little bit more usable, a little bit more realistic to understand and know what you can fit back there. So we're trying to do more of that. And one thing that I can say here about the Kona, whether you go EV or whether you have a combustion engine under the hood, the front end looks similar on both models, something you don't always see. We will have LED headlights, LED daytime running lights, and this is something you're going to see on any model of the Kona. As far as the light right there, I'm going to hopefully be able to get into a place later on where I can show you everything in the dark. Now you will see some differences here. While there are similarities, obviously some differences, not only with the lack of a traditional upper grille up here, but with what we have down here on the bottom. That's going to be different as well. But that's good because I know a lot of people like to have their vehicles set apart. And right here is your charge port. Now, you'll notice one thing, it's not power assist. What do you think about that? I don't think that's that big of a deal, but you will see that you have a couple of options here as far as what you can plug in. Now, the one thing I do want to show here, if I was gonna sound the gong on anything, notice how all of that comes off at one time. Not sure that that's the best thing or not. Tell me what you think about that. Just something to be aware of, not necessarily a bad thing, but I do like to make people aware of what is here. Easy to deal with, no big deal, very simplistic. Now, these only come available in front wheel drive. What are your thoughts on that? And a big issue with any EV is obviously aerodynamics, because without the aid of proper aerodynamics, you're going to obviously lose charge capacity with the battery quicker. That explains the design of these 17-inch wheels. What are your thoughts? Do you like them? Do you not? Let's talk about tire and wheel size here. 215 on the width. You will have a 60 series sidewall. And as I already told you, you do have these 17-inch wheels. And something I like here, check this out. Something you don't always see on vehicles when we look at the lighting here on the top of the hood right here, or the top of the bumper area, the front end area where the shut line is, we'll find that the turn signal indicators built into the side view mirrors will mimic that. That's actually good. I think that's nice as far as just consistency goes. Manually folding side view mirrors, body color as far as your mirror caps, and you will find power adjustability, obviously, and your blind spot monitoring will be right there. And for those who want to see what the remote looks like, well, there you go. And the main thing I know a lot of people like to know about the remotes is right there, remote start. So it is there. You will find roof rails, the body colored shark fin antenna, and a little bit of silver. It's not gloss black, it's not chrome, but we'll have the silver that works its way up. And I think that's a nice kind of flowing look as to how that flows into the rear roof spoiler back here. So a nice look, looks clean, at least in my estimation. You can tell me what you think about that. I normally like to see the rear window wipers concealed away within the rear roof spoiler. It just cleans things up back here, makes things look a little bit better. That doesn't look so bad back here. And once again, mimicking what we see on the front end, we're going to see the same thing right back here. So some consistency with the overall look. And then we will have our tail lights here. And again, a very similar look to what we saw with the lower portion of the front end right here as well. A very clean look on the rear of this Kona EV. And just as the Kona EV comes standard with front wheel drive. That's the only option. You also will find the single electric motor. There's not a dual electric motor setup available in this particular case with the Kona. How about those all-important MPGs? 129 city, 103 highway, 116 combined, and 29 kilowatt hours per 100 miles driven. And you're looking at a maximum of 261 miles on a single charge. If any of you have driven a Kona EV or own one maybe long enough to be able to give us some information, have you found that to be accurate? Maybe a little more, maybe a little bit less. Tell us down in the comments section. And let's start looking into storage capabilities and capacities here. Here under the hood, if you want to call it the frunk, I don't know if I'd really call it that in this case, but we do have a little storage section right here. Now, one thing I do want to point out, don't start pulling up on the middle here. I guess you could force it, but you might break something if you do that. There are actually tabs that you can use, one or both right here, as you can see, will open this area. Now, I like the fact that it stays in place when you open it like that, so whatever you end up putting in here, you can get to that without having to hold on to the cover right there. That's easy to deal with. So a little bit of space right there. If you run low on windshield washer fluid, here's where you're going to fill that in. And here on the limited trim level, you're going to find a power tailgate. Now, I set this up intentionally to show you something very important. You might look at that and say, wow, that is not going to open high enough for me. I'll hit my head on that. Well, you can change the height. It's very easy. All we're going to do is push that all the way up. There's its highest position right there. So, how do you make it stay there? You're going to hold this button down and listen for the 2 beeps. And now we'll close that down one more time. And while we're waiting for that to open back up, you'll notice the cargo cover that's installed right there. That is easily removable. In fact, I'm going to remove that here in just a few seconds because I'm going to tell you what the cargo capacity is in inches, and that needs to be out of the way to do that. And because I know how the YouTube world works, if I don't give this information, someone will ask and I won't have it. So before I remove the cargo cover, somebody might say, well, what are the specs as far as the height goes? So if we measure from the floor to this section of the cargo cover, you have 14 inches. And then if we measure to this area, I don't know that that's really that important, but I'll give it anyway. From the floor to right here is 29.5 inches. And as far as the width goes back here with the opening, we're looking at 41 inches in this area. If you drop down right here and you need to just push something straight in, you're looking at 43.5 inches as far as the width of the opening goes. The height to this section right here is going to be 28 inches. As far as the width goes, there are a couple of measurements. If we measure from right here behind the fender well all the way across, we're looking at 47 inches. When we measure from side to side, when we get a little further into the interior, we'll lose 6 inches and go to 41 inches. If we measure from where the rear door closes to the back of the rear seats in their upright position, that's 33 inches. And I know a lot of you like to see cargo capacity maximized, so I lowered both seats down. And the length, as far as into the interior goes, from where the shut line is on the door right here to the back of the front seats, obviously that's going to vary a little bit depending on where those front seats are located. In this particular case, we're looking at 65 inches. And last but not least, when we get into the interior, you'll notice that the roof line raises up a little bit. You gain a few inches to 31 inches. And yes, there is space underneath the floor. I'm not going to remove it all the way, but you can remove the floor if you need to. You do have the removable carpet right here. Now I'm going to pull that out because I want to show you something very important here that might be of interest. You can also change the position of the floor a couple of different areas, just like you can with a regular Kona, if we can call that regular. No matter if you go EV or non-EV, the rear floor area is the same as far as that's concerned. There is space underneath the floor. Now you won't find a spare tire here on this particular model. Not a big surprise with an EV. And what will your rear seat passengers find? Well, there's a combination on the armrest of a little bit of padding right there and a little bit of plastic. But when you put your arm up there, the area that I think is going to matter the most seems to be the most comfortable. Hard to say because I'm not going to have my arm there for a long time. And I really wouldn't call it a door bin. It's really a bottle holder more than a door bin, but it's there. And there is the recline. You can see I have this side reclined back. That's what we have. And something else you'll see throughout the interior here that really sets it apart, kind of breaks things up a little bit, is going to be the contrast stitching right here. That's nice to see. Seat pockets, or really more of a net material, but they obviously store things in there on both seats. And then rear air conditioning vents, something you don't see everywhere in one of these subcompact crossovers. And again, there's that green contrast right there. It looks nice, it looks right, it seems to fit. And a little bit of space on this side and a couple of USB ports. We're going to close that door to kind of help out with things as far as noise goes. And with the sunroof, it is not a panoramic sunroof. Do you think it should be? Tell me what your thoughts are. And we still have a decent amount left to look at with the front seat. What's the sticker price? Some of you may be wondering about that if you came into Mike Morgan Hyundai to buy this model. $42,965. Let's see what else you get for that price. A very similar setup here with the front doors as far as the armrest goes. A little plastic there, a little more padding right here, but you will find the larger door bin. So for those who say, I have to have the largest door bin, get in the front seat. Now you'll have a manually adjustable passenger seat, but a power adjustable driver's seat. The Kona logo there on the floor mats. And we'll hop on inside here. And again, there is that contrast that really breaks things up. It goes all the way across. In fact, it works its way onto the steering wheel and even onto the seat backs here in the front. And with that, we also have storage right up here and then the glove box. So Hyundai making use of some space right here that a lot of the time would just have a piece covering that. Nice to see a little bit of extra option there for storage capacity for smaller items. The wireless charging pad right here, you can also see the USB options as well. You can see a few other things that are here as far as what you need to do with your options. Right here is where you're going to control everything for your drive mode. You can also see that you have heated and ventilated seats for the driver and the passenger. Not bad for less than $43,000. And this isn't anything unusual, but it is nice to see something that, well, is a little out of the norm. You can take advantage of the cup holders right here if you want to, or you can use that purely for storage space. So depending on what you need to do, well, there you go. And the center console lid, if you want to call it that, can be used as an armrest. So not the biggest or the widest, but it is typical of a subcompact crossover. And you have the removable tray right here that's kind of like a center console of sorts, but there is a lot more space underneath. It's just not fully enclosed. And something else I know a lot of you like to know about, not always shown in these videos, the upper console. This is the control for turning on or off the map lights, the reading lights, whichever you wish to call that, and the other controls that are here. And as we look into the driver's seating area, everything you expect to find here on the driver's side door panel, I think you know what all is there. And as I said earlier, while you have a manually adjustable passenger seat, the driver's seat is power adjustable. You can see all of the controls right there. And if you want to open the front trunk or hood or frunk, whatever you want to call that, here's the release for that. Right here, you can open the power tailgate and you can turn your traction control on and off right there, as well as dropping the lever right here, preferably not when you're driving. If you've ever done that, you probably won't do it a second time, but that allows you to adjust your tilt and telescopically adjustable steering wheel. That is rather comfortable, by the way. Now we'll reach over here and hit the push button start. One thing that I noticed, maybe you get used to it. Tell me what you think about it, especially if you own a Kona of any type that has this shifter. reaching around seems to be a little bit of something to get used to, but maybe not a big deal if it's something you drive every day. And we'll start the vehicle. Obviously, you can wirelessly pair your smartphone. All of that is here. There's your settings. Pretty easy to deal with. And you do here on the limited trim level have multiple camera views. In fact, you can see your overhead view right there. If you want to see what other views you have, well, you can see what I'm doing right there. It's pretty easy to deal with. So there are the views from the side view mirrors, and there is the rear camera view. Pretty simple to deal with. And by the way, I did talk about the shifter earlier and its placement right here. I think once you get used to it, it's not a big deal to get to the button to start and stop the power of the vehicle. But you're going to, obviously, it makes sense. You're going to rotate this section forward to go into drive and pull it back to go into reverse. It makes sense. Not a big deal. And dual zone climate control here in the front seating area. Pretty self-explanatory, easy to deal with. You can sync those two sides together if you want to. There's the button for that. And you also have built-in navigation. If you want to use that, there it is. You also have the search function. So if you want to use that, you can. Media is right here. Pretty self-explanatory, like I say, easy to deal with. And then all you have to do, depending on what you want to do, pairing your phone and all of that is here. And it even gives you some verbal instructions. And one thing I did want to make sure I showed you, you do have a power shade that works right here. It's not manual, it's power. And depending on what you need to do, you can open that or close that to reveal your sunroof. And I told you I was going to try to get into a darker atmosphere to show you what the lighting looks like. So here we go. This is what the interior lighting looks like. I have everything turned on. Even some lighting in that extra storage capacity we looked at earlier above the glove box. Steering wheel mounted controls, and then everything obviously on the doors. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll turn on the left side turn signals, and we'll get out here and take a look at how everything appears in the darkest atmosphere I can give you. And you can see a really good look here on the front end. And that's one thing, whether you go with the electric version of the Kona or not, you're going to have the same lighting across this area. It does give it a nice look and a nice consistent look, if you want to put it that way. And last but not least, we'll go back here and take a look at the rear. And something I really do have to say I like here that Hyundai does is the fact that the lights here run all the way across. On some of other vehicles out there that have a similar look or something along those lines, they typically only are going to be in this area, maybe with the rear tail lights or something like that. But we have some good consistency here on the look on the front and the rear. All right, quick test drive here with the Kona Electric. What is it like to drive? Well, it's fun. It feels fairly sporty. It has a comfortable ride quality, and it sure handles well, that's for sure. When I'm driving it, I like the fact, hope you didn't hear that. I don't know what Siri thought I was saying to her, but she responded to something and said, I'm sorry. Maybe you heard that, maybe you didn't. But anyway, when it comes to the overall feel that comes through the steering wheel, I must say I'm actually pretty impressed with that because it has a good tight steering to it. It seems to be very responsive. I like that. And one thing I've noticed over the years, this shouldn't surprise anybody, but in case you haven't driven a newer vehicle, maybe you're driving a vehicle that's 20 or more years old, something along those lines, you don't get that same almost out of control feeling that you can sometimes get from older front wheel drive vehicles. If you've had that experience, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Overall, it's fun to drive. It's comfortable. I don't feel cramped. And I could adjust the seat a little more than I actually have here, so that could actually be improved upon, but since I'm just doing a short test drive, not a big deal. Haven't really gone to great lengths where that's concerned. So tell me what you think about the 2024 Hyundai Kona Electric Limited. Tried to hit the highlights on the main points today to let you know what is here. I know we didn't cover every single little detail down to the torque specs for the lug nuts, but we tried to keep it at the most important points. But if there's something I didn't give you, tell me what it is so I'll know for future videos, something you might want to hear about or see that I didn't show in today's video. I do want to say a special thanks to my friends at Mike Morgan Hyundai for loaning me this Kona Electric for the day, and a special thanks to each and every one of you for being kind enough to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button. That helps me out a lot. And please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you don't miss future videos. And if you would like to learn about additional vehicles you may wish to consider purchasing, check out the video that's on the screen right now, and I will see you there.